everyone. Let me just share. Okay. Okay, I hope you can all see. Shalom from Jerusalem. When we planned this lecture, we thought of Simchat Torah, but now we are waiting for the real Simcha to be tomorrow. Hopefully, everyone is very tense here. Hopefully, it all goes well. So we say you not mix one Simcha with another, but tonight we'll try to do that. We are going to speak on one object in this lecture, but I'll give you the background and you'll see where it comes from and how it developed and how it became to be like the Hanukkah lamp for Hanukkah or the Haggadah for Pesach, for Simchat Torah, this object that is of a different type. It's not a ritual object, it's not something sacred, but it has a lot of meaning to it, meaning the flag of the Simchat Torah. So we're going to begin with actually the 20th century, and then we'll go back. I'm opening this lecture with a statement or a note from Herzl, who was maybe the first Jew to understand the meaning of flag from nationalistic point of view. And in a letter that he wrote to the Baron Hirsch in Paris, he writes in 1895, a flag, what is that? A stick with a rag on it? No, sir, a flag is more than that. With a flag, people are led where one wants to lead them, even into the promised land. For a flag, men will live and die. It is indeed the only thing for which they are ready to die in masses, if they are educated for it. So Herzl understands that the flag is something not in what was in the Jewish tradition before him, and we'll try to understand what was before him. But he understands that it can do something much more. It's a symbol, and he is really the one that because of him we have the flag that you see in this picture, the flag of Israel that is so well known today, and he was the first to have the inspiration to draw it. But now let's go to ancient times and see what the flag is in the Bible. The word degel in Hebrew, or flag, or banner, is mentioned 13 times in the Bible, 12 in the book of Numbers, and 1 in the Song of Songs. Now the 12 mentions of the word degel in the book of Numbers and Bamidbar are always connected, and this is very important for us, with the 12 tribes of Israel. When the author of the book of Numbers describes how the Israelites were camping in the desert, he's using the word degel. And he writes, and here is the quote, the children of Israel shall encamp each man by his division. I translated here the word degel to division because that's what it means here. It means that they will camp in a group. I mean, all the tribe will be on one together, and then they will have the flag raised to show where they are. But the word degel is the division, and the next word that is mentioned here in Hebrew, otot, ot, is what we today understand as flag. The two were confused. At that time, they were not confused because degel at that time meant like an army, a military camp, and the military camp has a flag. But at least in this context that it appears first in the Bible, it is only this word as division or a camp. You can see how it's described elsewhere in the book of Numbers, later in the chapter. It describes how the 12 tribes were camped in the desert, and it's described each unit, how they camped. The 12 tribes were camped according to the 4 directions of the world. Yes, I mean, like each one is in one direction, and there is a full description of that. And of course, it doesn't mean the flag, but the entire tribe. Yes, if you want to see how this looks like, here is a map, modern map of the encampment of the 12 tribes in the desert. The tabernacle is in the center, The Levites are around it, and then on each side, like on the north, there are the 3 tribes of Dan, Asher, and Naphtali. On the west side, Ephraim, Menashe, and Benjamin. On the south is Gad, Shimon, and Reuven, and on the east, Judah, Issachar, and Zvulun. And according to the description, on each side, one tribe is the leader, you can say. Judah is here, Ephraim is here on the west, and so on. So that's how they were camped. So this is the word degel. It means this camp of the tribe of Judah, this camp of Issachar, okay? Then the next time the word degel appears in the Bible is only once in the Song of Songs. And already by that time that the book of Song of Songs was composed, the meaning has changed slightly. There is the verse that the lover is singing about her beloved. He has brought me to the house of wine, and his banner, his degel, was over me, and this banner is love. Okay, it's like a love poetry, and she's using the word degel, which here is translated into the banner or flag, unlike the division that we saw before. And so the rabbis explain to us what does it mean, and from here is our concept is coming. The rabbis, as you know, I'm sure everybody here knows, the book of Song of Songs was interpreted in an allegorical way by the rabbis of the Talmudic period. So they say it's a love, the song of love between God and his people Israel. So what it means here is brought me to the house of wine. Rabbi Judah said, what then is meant by he has brought me to the house of wine? The community of Israel said, she is the bride, the Holy One, the bridegroom, blessed be he, brought me to the great cellar of wine, namely Sinai. The cellar of wine is Sinai, Mount Sinai. There he gave me the banners of the Torah, degel Torah. Yes, here's the term that we use, the Simchat Torah flag that comes from here. And the precepts and good deeds, in great love I accepted them. Meaning that this is really the giving of the law on Mount Sinai. This verse is describing in an allegorical way, yes, because he gave them to his bride in the place that is selected, the house of wine, and he gave them, and she accepted them with love. Okay, so these two concepts of what degel means in the Bible, as we'll see, will be very prominent in later times. Now we switch to medieval Europe, where many things happened related to our story. The word that is taken from the Bible and only in the context of the banner for this item becomes what we see in medieval miniature as something for military purposes. It's used in battles, it's used by kings, by knights, when they go out to fight, or when they ennoble someone and impose on him to go and fight for his people, for his country, for whatever cause. So you see how the king is giving the banner to some of his military generals, you can say here, and then they go to fight with the flag. And notice the shape of the flag has like what we call swallowtail, that is like two-pointed tail, yes? And this will be important for us. Or in this miniature that was actually painted in the Holy Land of the Crusaders, we see the Maccabees chasing the infidels, and let me show you detail, and the Maccabees are carrying the military flag and the shields. Okay, so this is the word degel that is in Latin, this period is called vexillium. That's how it came to be identified, which is also very interesting, that the flag that represents now an army, a king, a division of the army, like these two meanings that from the numbers were taken, is also comes to represent in a negative way Judaism and Christian art. So we see these examples now of what is called the synagogue, meaning the woman, allegorical woman that represents Judaism, and she's holding a flag. You see this synagogue in one of the cathedrals. Her crown is falling. She's blindfolded because she did not see the arrival of the Messiah, and she's holding the staff with a broken, it's broken, and the flag is falling, meaning like the humiliation of the synagogue. Or here, synagogue is on the floor, ecclesia, meaning the church, is stepping over her, and she has the staff with the flag. Again, the military flag and the cross at top, to show that the flag can mean also in allegorical way the nation, the religion, anything great. It's a symbol of something that is, like represents a military power or other powers that were in the Middle Ages. In Jewish art, when they show flags in medieval Jewish art, for example, here's from Haggadah from Spain, we see the Egyptians chasing the Israelites, and this is Moses here with the Israelites. These are the Egyptians led by King Pharaoh. Only the enemies of the Jews would have the flags like this, because the flag is the symbol of those who are persecuting us. The armies in Christian Europe, the Germans, the Spanish, the French, the English, it doesn't matter. These are the evil people, and someone with a flag is shown as the enemy of the Jew. Here are the Egyptians, but also in the Haggadot of the time, they would show the wicked son of the four sons of the Haggadah as a soldier holding a flag. Here's Rasha. You see the Rasha, the wicked son. He is a soldier of the time because he persecutes the Jews, and he holds the flag. So the meaning of the flag by this time, the degel in Hebrew, means this, what we see in medieval Europe, and they understood it's something against them. And when they wanted to overcome the Christians, at least ideologically, with only one case that we know this began to be into, let's say, materialization. And this is the flag, the only flag, Jewish flag that we have from the Middle Ages that survived, that we know that existed and was produced for this false Messiah, Shlomo Molcho of the 16th century. This Portuguese Jew was a Marano first, and he converted, he like circumcised himself and became a Jew again and claimed to be the Messiah, or he wanted to be that. And they made for him a flag in the shape of the military flag, was again the swallow tail, as I said, the two-pointed tail, because this is a military flag. And on this flag that is still exists today in the Jewish Museum in Prague are inscribed verses in Hebrew, all biblical verses, and all these verses are about revenge, because this is what army flag means. So here, for example, I quoted here only two verses from what we have here. The Lord is a God who punishes. God, show your greatness and punish, meaning the Gentiles, of course. Yes, and let the Jews go back to their homeland. Oh, here is another verse that is quoted on this flag of Shlomo Molcho. Chase them in anger and destroy them from under the heavens of the Lord. Yes, I mean, these are because they understood what flag means at that time, what it means for Christians. And by the way, in the signature, we have in a manuscript that survived his signatures. It says Shlomo in Sephardi script, but from the Lamed he made a flag. You see, this is again this flag that he knows. This only with this way military to be like our enemies. If you be strong like them, you can defeat them. Otherwise, in Jewish art, before we go to the Simchat Torah flag and see what happened with it, in Jewish art, the flags would be shown in some communities, non-East European, and then you will understand in a second why. Only in the context of the 12 tribes. We have that already in the ancient synagogue of Dura Europos. It's a synagogue from the 3rd century, all covered with wall paintings with biblical topics. And one of them is the Exodus from Egypt. So it shows here, this wall painting, it shows Moses drowning the Egyptians with the help of the hand of God and holding his staff. And here is again Moses, and now he lets the Israelites cross the Red Sea with no water in it. Yes, I mean the water is only on the side here with the fish. So instead of depicting all the Israelites, of course you cannot do that in a small wall painting. What the artist did, he depicted the presidents of the 12 tribes. Here are the 12 presidents. Each one, you can count them. Each one represents one of the 12 tribes. And what they are holding is, they're holding a banner, a military banner of the Roman army. So by this time, all of the Indo-Europeans, they understood the word degel in the context of the 12 tribes to be a banner in this way. So you see these sticks that you see here with rectangular shape here, like the Roman military banners. This tradition continued in the Middle Ages in some communities in Western Europe. For example, here's the opening from one of the manuscripts from Germany, Ashkenazi manuscript, that shows the opening page for the book of Bamidbar, or Numbers. And we see the encampment here abbreviated to only 4 tribes. Each one of the 4, they look like knights, represents one of the 12 tribes who were camped in the directions as we mentioned. For example, Judah here is in the east, and his emblem is the lion. And here I show the detail, the tribe of Dan, and here is the serpent. Yes, so this is the first time that we have the emblems of the 12 tribes in Jewish art, and they are holding a banner or a flag with this emblem. Here is now Italian Jews took it more seriously, this topic. And so what you have here in the, for example, in the Venice Agada, one of the printed Agadot, Italian Agadot, the encampment of the 12 tribes in the desert. You see here is the tabernacle in the center, the Levites around it, and you see one tribe, another one, 3 on each side, and the one in the center is holding the flag, the military flag, with the emblem. Here is, for example, Judah with the lion. Here is Ephraim in the west with the bull. Okay. Italian Jews took it very seriously to show the banners of the 12 tribes. And actually, this is the first time they appear in Jewish art, in Jewish history visually. It's in Italy of the Baroque period, especially in illuminated Italian Jewish manuscripts. For example, Ketubot, the marriage contracts. What you see here in these 2 marriage contracts, both are Venetian. Here you see the tribes are like the east, yes, the west, the north, the south. They are like arranged around the text of the Ketubah according to the description in the book of Numbers. And here we have all the 12 tribes, all the 12 emblems for the first time in Jewish history, something that today is very common in every synagogue almost, in Israel at least. I'm sure details. Each tribe is connected to one of the 12 signs of the zodiac. For example, Reuven, here is the tribe, degel Reuven, it says, the flag or the banner of Reuven, and is connected with the Aquarius. Or Issachar, the sun and the moon, Judah, the lion, with the Taurus. But anyway, you have the 12 tribes with their emblems as described in the Midrash. And so here, and they will use the word degel. What happens in Italy at that time, and Spain and Portugal as well, is that the 12 tribes and their emblems are compared to to the noble families of Europe and the guilds. Each tribe has its emblem, but each guild has also its coat of arms. You see, here is the 12 tribes of Israel, and here are coat of arms of the noble family. For example, you know, the Medici, there's the Medici family, and so on. Okay, I'm sorry. Okay, you see, it says here, the armor, meaning the coat of arms of the 12 tribes of Israel. You see, Reuven, Shimon, and Judah with the lion, Simon with the castle, and so on. So, and the Italian Jews took this emblem and called it degel. This is their degel Torah, is the emblem of the family. It can be the tribe, but it can be of the noble families. Like the Christian guilds had their emblems, so they put the degel for their shields that, you know, like a hallmark, you can say, that identify, for example, here the printers. This Tuvia Foa, and this is a shield. And this is another family, and it says degel. Yes, they took the word from numbers and made it into something military in this way. And so the noble families, the Italian noble families, Jewish, I mean, all adopted this. Some names that you know for sure. Levi, of course, everybody know. And Morpurgo, I don't know how many of the Finzi continue, you know, and so on. And each one has its emblem as the selected, and it is shown, and that's what they said, and that's how Italian Jews explain, like the banners of the 12 tribes. They would put it, for example, on the marriage contracts, on the personal objects. Here is a ketubah from the city of Rome, and the top of the ketubah is the coat of arms of the family of the bridegroom. And you see it's like a shield with a crown above and two putti nude holding it, like the Medici emblem. The same, this is the Medici family. Two angels are holding, and there is a crown above, and so on. So, and this the Jews call degel. Okay, this is the flag. They put it on the personal objects like a Esther scroll, a siddur with a silver binding. Here is the coat of arms of the family who commissioned this silver binding for the siddur. And on a tombstone, yes, on the tombstone, you see the shield of the person who is buried on this one. This is in the Lido in Venice. And so you see the rampant lion that is the symbol of this family. Okay, so this was one culture that used the word degel in a totally different way than what I'm going to speak now. And the Jews of Eastern Europe has taken it into totally different direction, and only in their culture could the degel Torah, the flag for Simchat Torah, be developed, because they took it to mean something totally else, as we'll see. So we now go to Ashkenazi and to Eastern Europe especially, to see how Simchat Torah was celebrated and how this object came to
Professor Sabar, your internet connection is a little low, and the image is frozen, so we can't hear you right now.
Okay.
One moment, let's see that it returns.
Can you hear now? Let me know.
Yes. So just from the beginning of this slide.
Okay. So we are now switching to Eastern Europe to see how the word degel was taken in a totally different meaning, understood totally different way, and allowed to an object to be developed that could not be developed in Italy or among the Sephardim in Europe, because as you saw, they understood the word degel in a different way. So we'll see now how it was in Eastern Europe. The first thing I have to say about Simchat Torah in Eastern Europe, it was considered the most important holiday for children. It's a holiday of children, because in this holiday, you celebrate the tradition, meaning transferring the tradition from one generation to the next, because you begin Bereshit, you begin reading of the Torah from the beginning, and this like the cycle, and the children are the symbol of that, because you pass to them the Torah. And so the way Simchat Torah was celebrated in Eastern Europe is of great interest. For example, here I'm showing you two woodcuts from books of customs that are called Simchat Torah. And what you see in Simchat Torah, you see nothing that probably most of you won't know how it's related, what we see here to Simchat Torah. What you see here is the melamed, the teacher, in the cheder, in the school, and he's holding a bag filled with apples, and he throws them on the ground, and the children come and pick them. You can say, what it has to do with Simchat Torah? Yes, because he is like the shepherd. He is giving the apples to his flock. His flock, he will now pick them and follow him to Eretz Israel. Yes, I mean, this is really the idea that they are now educated to be the continuation of the hope to rebuild Jerusalem and will follow him. And this is a symbolic act that represents Simchat Torah. In the synagogue, you read the Torah anew, and he's doing this play way, in a playful way with the children. Yes, he's giving them apples, and we'll see the importance of the apple in a second. And so the children are brought to the synagogue. It's a holiday of the children, really. So they are part of the celebration. Here we see a painting by Meyer Kirschenblatt, or maybe some of you know his daughter, Barbara Kirschenblatt, the ethnographer, famous ethnographer, folklorist. He grew up in Poland and he paints his childhood, and he passed away by now. But anyway, so we see the children are very much part of the scene of the akafot, yes, and they're holding the flags here, and here there are more children, and they're under the talit of the rabbi. Like they are the, let's say, active participants in this service. And on some of the Simchat Torah flags, and we'll speak about them in a second, but I just want to show you one of the earliest that has an explanation for this holiday. What we do in this holiday. The explanation is written here at the top of the flag. Let me show you a detail. Okay, and here is the translation of what we see. Minhag Israel, it begins here. It is the custom of Israel to bring the young children to the synagogue for the completion of the Torah, meaning for this holiday of Simchat Torah. By this merit, they will be privileged to raise them and rejoice in the rebuilding of the Holy Temple speedily in our days. So there is a meaning for this minhag, yes, for this custom. You bring the children, you would distribute to them apples, you bring them to the synagogue, because there are those who will lead you eventually to Eretz Israel. At least you hope for that. If not them, then their children, and so on. That's the idea behind this. And so that they can do it, so that they can follow and this custom and, let's say, make it in an allegorical way, but more meaningful, this object was invented. This object that we call the Simchat Torah flag. This object was invented because they are the army that will take us to the Holy Land. They are the military power of the Middle Ages, but not with swords or guns. They will do it with the flag of the Torah. They will fight for you in the name of the Torah, yes? But to understand this meaning, then you give them flags that look like military flags with the swallowtail, as I mentioned, and so on. So here we see in these postcards, they're all from Warsaw, or some replicas from New York, but anyway, of Polish Jews of early 20th century. And we see either children holding the flag, or they're now in the akafot in the synagogue, and while the adults are holding the Sifrei Torah, the children are holding the flags. Okay, there is the father is walking with his daughter and the son to the synagogue in Warsaw. Zu akafos, it says here in Yiddish. And so each child is one of the flags, yes, because they are going to fight for you with this flag, but the fight of the Torah. Yes, their weapons, you can say, their arms are not the coat of arms of Italian Jews to show how noble they are, but they are going to fight you by the words of God. I'm sorry, should not have happened, but anyway. So we see in this postcard from early 20th century Poland how the flags are prepared. For example, this particular postcard is called the flag for Simchat Torah in Yiddish, or the father is buying one for his child in the street. It is photographed by Vishniak in the 1930s between the war. And we see the father is preparing, the flag is already, he bought it, but is now making the piece of wood to have it on. And look at the child, what he has in his hand, an apple. Here is the apple again, that symbolic fruit that we see here, that the child is holding it, waiting for his father to finish, and then he will put it at the top of the flag. And here you see a detail from one of the postcards. So we see the two children are holding the flags, and on the top of each one there is an apple, and above it a candle. So why the apple? So the obvious reason that is given in the Book of Customs of the rabbis from Eastern Europe, and they quote biblical verses for that. So the verse that they quote is again from Song of Songs. Remember where the concept of banner of Torah, degel Torah, appears for the first time, at least in the Midrash. And it says, the verse that they quote is, Ketapuach benatzei hayar, like an apple tree among the trees of the forest, so is my beloved among the youths. If you know the allegorical interpretation of Song of Songs, you know that what this verse means, like an apple among the trees of the forest, is Israel among the nation. Yes, among the nations. So is my beloved, is the chosen one. And by the way, we say that the apple tree and the rose, that is also a symbol of Israel in Song of Song, is surrounded by thorns. I hope I'm pronouncing it correctly. Thorns, yes. And what are these? Are, of course, the Gentiles that want to slaughter the Jews and things like that. That's how at least interpreted in the Midrash. So this is what the apple means, and in the Midrash there are many other explanations why the apple is the symbol of the Jewish people, and they make all kinds of comparisons. On the top of the apple, you put a candle. The candle is, again, the quote for you verses from the Bible, Kiner mitzvah v'Torah or, for the commandment is a lamp, and the teaching of the Torah is a light. I mean, this is the light with which you fight. Yes, this is your way, what you find the truth you can find with it, and so on. Or the quote another verse from Isaiah, Al ken kabdu beurim. Therefore honor or glorify the Lord with lights. So these lights and the apple are very meaningful, and they add to the meaning of the degel, of the flag. Now, about the history, material history of the flags of the Simchat Torah. Unfortunately, this is, I said at the beginning, it's not a Hanukkah lamp, it's not a Agadah, it's not a ritual object, it's done for children, and it's what we call ephemera. Ephemera, the nature of ephemera, is that when you don't need it, you throw it away. There's nothing holy about it. Maximum, you can put it in a geniza if you want, but there's nothing holy to keep it or from one generation to the next. So that's the reason why we don't have any Simchat Torah flags before 1860s. I mean, before the second half of the 19th century. Nothing survived, although there is mention of them in the literature. For example, one of the responsa from the 17th century says that they discussed the issue of the flags with the candle, whether it's permitted to bring them to the synagogue, because one candle can fall and the entire synagogue will be on fire. So they discuss whether it's good to do it or not, and so on. But anyway, the discussion that is from 16-something shows us that this already in the 17th century, the flag was known, and with the same symbols, the apple and the candle. So what survived from the 1860s that we see here are those that were not used. They remained in the printing house of the printer who printed them. Yes, so here we see a page that is before it was cut by the printer, before they were sold as individual flags, and on it you see 9 flags. Yes, this is how it survived. That's and it's only one copy in the world. That's it. It was in private collection in Tel Aviv, and now it's in the National Library of Israel. But this is the only copy of this that survived in this way. So you see the flags are printed before they were cut, and the date of this is 1864. Here is a binder that survived again before it was sold from the famous printing house in Vilna, in Vilnius today it's called, Vilna in the past, of the Rom brothers. This is a famous family that printed the Shas of Vilna, the Talmud of Vilna, the same family of printing family. So they printed a binder with 8 flags. Here is the cover of it. You see it says in the printing house of Yosef and Reuven from the Rom family, they are brothers, and in Russian, and it says Vilna and the date 1869 in this case. Here is how these flags look inside this binder. And now we see that what they did, the children are like the 12 tribes. They are those who will lead us to the Holy Land, like Moses led them. So this idea of putting on these flags from the beginning the names of the 12 tribes was something very important, because this how the word degel first appears in the Torah, as we saw. So you see degel Machane Yehuda, yes, the banner of the tribe of Judah, or Ephraim, or Asher, or Gad. Yes, this is how all these early flags, like they represent the children are carrying them in the name of the 12 tribes that were marching to the Holy Land. And some flags, now we already moving to later period, it's already late 19th century, early 20th century, you have all the 12 flags of the tribes, yes, are shown here, above the Torah ark, typical Polish Torah ark, with Moses and Aaron, and the child that is holding the flag, while his father is holding the Torah scroll. Okay, so this idea is like still continue to be prominent even later in the second generation that we have, and even in Israel of today. And I'll go back to Poland in a second, but I just want to show a modern Israeli flag, not so new, it's at least 40 years old, but anyway, it's modern. And you see still that on the flag of Simchat Torah, the artist knew this very well, so he puts the tabernacle in the center and the flags of the 12 tribes around it, like in the order that I showed you before. Okay, so the tribe that was most, let's say, popular, you can say, the most important, the most significant, is the tribe of Judah. Why the tribe of Judah appears more on more flags than any other tribe? Because Judah is the tribe from whom the Messiah will come, the house of David, the tribe to which Polish Jews or all European Jews actually associate themselves. They are not the lost 10 tribes. They came to Europe from Jerusalem, from the persecutions of Titus, I mean, with the destruction of the temple. So they are Judean, more or less. So the tribe of Judah is the most important one, as is emblem. The tribe of Judah, his emblem is the lion, yes, because Jacob tells his son Judah, you are like a lion, like a young lion, yes? Gu Aryeh Yehuda, yes, he said. So here we see Degel Machane Yehuda would appear on most of the flags with this inscription, the tribe of Judah, and the name of Judah is written in the center. Of course, the word Judah also means Jew. That's another thing, but they all display a significant meaning. Sometimes we see the lion paired with a deer. That is not because it's one of the emblems of the 12 tribes, but because now they associate the lion with something else. We see the inscription above the lion and the deer on this early Simchat Torah flag, swift like a deer and strong like a lion. רץ כצבי וגיבור כארי. can say what these animals have to do with the Torah and why they are symbol of, let's say, of what all I'm saying about fighting in the name of God and so on. You'll see how central it is because there are so many early Polish Torah flags that we have with this inscription. But here I'm showing you this flag now that is woodcut, and we'll speak about the technique in a second, because it has not only this inscription, Ratz Katzvi V'Gibor Ka'ari, but also, and it says here, Degel Machane Yehuda, the banner of the tribe of Judah, and also here is an inscription, Arei Ishag Milo Yira, the lion has roared, who will not be fearful. Yes, it's a quote from the Bible, from the book of Amos. So here is the lion is getting an additional meaning. And what's the meaning of the deer? Running fast to do what? Yes, I mean, I want to show you the earliest flag that has that from the first edition, 1864. And it has a sheep that is leading you to the Holy Land, to the sun, to the east. Okay, and the lion and the deer are going in this direction. So to understand the meaning of the lion and the deer, you have to go into Polish synagogues of the past and see how they were decorated. And one of the most prominent decorations was to show what they called the holy animals, Chayot HaKodesh. What are the holy animals? These are not animals because they're interested in zoology or botanics or things like that, in nature, but because these animals are symbols of qualities, yes, based on the Mishnah. Again, they take all this from ancient sources. So we see, for example, the doors of the Torah Ark of a synagogue that was once in Krakow, in Poland. Today they are in Israel, this door in the Shalom Museum in Jerusalem. And on these doors are carved 4 animals. Here is the deer, here is the lion, an eagle, and then a leopard. I'm showing you detail of the deer. Beautifully carved and colored and so on. And here at the top, there is an inscription. Yes, you see this in the round here. This inscription is from the Mishnah. Rabbi Judah ben Tema said, and here now is the quote, "Be bold as a leopard, light as an eagle, swift as a deer, and strong as a lion, to do the will of your Father in heaven." Meaning these animals are allegorical qualities of how you should perform your Jewish life in order to get to Messianic times. Yes, I mean, so you should be strong as the lion to get in the morning and do whatever commandment you have to do in the morning, and so on and so forth. And to do it fast as the deer, and so on. And by the way, this is one of the reasons, or I think the main reason, why children in Eastern Europe were called by the names of these animals. For example, we have the name Aryeh, we have, or Leb Aryeh, Aryeh Leb, or Tzvi Hirsch, yes, and so on. I mean, you have the names of these animals that are given to children, and because they are emblems of qualities, and not because they were pet animals or something like that. And they would, for example, appear on Torah crowns. These are 2 from Kiev, and you see the deer and the lions, and here the deer and the lions, beautiful Torah crowns. Each one is about 70 centimeters tall. Amazing, beautiful, this Torah crown. Now, a little bit about the technique I want to speak. The technique of printing these early Simchat Torah flags was something taken from the surrounding, and in Russia and Poland of the time, it was common to make popular religious prints that are called lubok. This is the Russian term for them, and they're called lubok. They usually is a picture, very naive, it's folk art, with some inscription that tells you the story. So the Jews took upon that, but of course, instead of showing Christian episodes or Russian legends or Polish, folklore, they show episodes from the Bible. For example, here is Eliezer and Rebecca, and with the camels, yes, and so on. And these are Simchat Torah flag with Moses and Aaron. So they took upon this idea of producing a Jewish lubok, but for Simchat Torah. And usually they would do it from woodcut. Here I selected one that you can see very clearly how it's done from wood. Yes, I mean, these are the carvings, yes, of the wood that you can see very easily. And the episode is building a sukkah and then sitting in it. And you can see that sometimes, because the flags are, some of them are, quite large, and they could not do it from one piece of wood block. So look at this as flag now, and you see this upper section up to here, where I'm pointing now, is from one wood block, and the lower section here is from another one. Okay, see where it's cut. If you look carefully, you can see that the artist, the maker, the printer of these flags used 2 wood blocks to make this. Now look at this design at the bottom that showed the Hasidim dancing with the Torah scrolls and the children with the flags here. And look at it, and here it is, yes. And here is another flag, but the upper episode is different because, as I said, it's printed from a different wood block. So here is the bottom section that is identical to what we saw, but the upper section is another story. It shows the story of the binding of Isaac. Okay, here's the Abraham, Isaac on the altar, the angel, the ram content in the thicket, and so on. I'll skip the detail. Okay, now let's go to this chapter of political meaning to the flags, because we are speaking late 19th century, early 20th century. So we begin to see the spirit of the time also coming to the flags. So what happens is, for example, on this flag, you see the bottom section is, as we see, is repeated, yes? We saw the same pattern before. The upper section show coat of arms like in Italy, a shield, yes? And there are 2 animals, heraldic animals, again, the deer and the lion, that are holding it, and on each the flag, it says Jerusalem. This is the emblem of Moses Montefiore, who was an Italian Jew originally, yes, from Livorno. This is his emblem that was given to him, if I'm not mistaken, by Queen Victoria. Yes, I mean, he was knighted. So this is the emblem that is used here. And since his dream is, all his activities were for the Jews of Eretz Israel, not only, but this was one of the main things that he did. So the word Yerushalayim is part of it. And here are the deer and so on. So you see, so here's now something not really, let's say, connecting Italian tradition with East European one, because this flag that we see now is produced in Eastern Europe. For them, Montefiore was important as well, yes? So we gradually see this more and more, that the word Yerushalayim appears, and the lion and the deer, okay? And now, when we come to early 20th century, and we are now in the shtetl of Obroisk, in the printing house of Yaakov Cohen, Ginsburg. So it shows on one side of the flag, Moses and Aaron and the Hasidim here, and so on, Sefer Torah. But look what's on the other side. On the other side is Herzl and Nordau. Herzl and Nordau are shown, and it says Sisu v'simchu v'simchat Torah, and they are holding now, not children, but adults, flags that mean something else, as we'll see in a second. This is the flag of already the idea of Herzl. Herzl is dreaming of the flag in this time, and this is, you see, this is becoming more and more dominant in the culture of East European Jewry. These are 2 postcards, not the Simchat Torah flags. And the song is composed at that time, toward the end of the century, that is changing the meaning of the word degel for East European Jews. This song, Sut Zion Hanes V'Degel, is now taking the meaning of the degel to be a military thing. I'll let you hear the song in a second, but you can see that the flags are now even become blue and white. I mean, the color of the flag, of the new flag, like the Ktalit. yes, and it says degel Zion, not degel Torah, degel Zion, the flag of Zion. Yes, and they quote on it verses from this song that I just mentioned, so Zion anes v'degel. Okay, so let's hear the song. I hope you can hear it and you see how it is.
On my end, we can't hear the song itself. Professor Sabar, I think you need to share the sound. We can't hear the song itself.
You can't hear. Okay, so I'll skip it. Because I stopped the sharing because he told me to stop it. I forgot, you see. לא חשוב, doesn't matter.
I'll make sure to send it in the follow-up
sure,
email
yeah,
so
yeah,
people
okay.
can listen to it.
Okay, so let's go on. I mean, it's the song that shows you how military songs, you can say, were composed at that time, and until today, they are sung in Israel in like a march of the soldiers and so on. But these concepts that have become more and more popular at that time would show you now that you cannot win, let's say, or go back to the Holy Land, cannot fulfill your wishes without a military force. So this, let's say, early 20th century when it comes, and so we see this woman that is now leading the soldiers of the Jewish battalions in Palestine to freedom, and the lion, that is symbol of the diaspora, is now breaking his chain, and he is the Lion of Judah that is now free, and so on. I'll skip that. And so the flags that are done in this period are very, let's say, taking these ideas very dramatically. And this is a Simchat Torah flag that is from the 1920s. We are now already in Eretz Israel, of these chalutzim that are now coming to the Holy Land and changing this concept of the Simchat Torah and making it much more dramatic. You can see that this flag says it has a Torah scroll, and it says this is the Torah that Moses put in front of the Israelites. But it says here, Be'ad Amenu Ve'ad Artzenu, for our people and for our nation, Zion, and then Magen David in the center with the word Zion inside. Okay, so immigration, let's move now to the 40s. The last part of my lecture, I want to show you what happened in Eretz Israel in the 40s with the immigration to Israel. The Simchat Torah becomes, let's say, representing the new populations in a very interesting way. This is flagged from the British Mandate time. And you can see it has many ideas that we saw from the past. Moses and Aaron, the Torah ark, the 4 animals that we mentioned, leopard, lion, deer, and the eagle. And we have the children, but now you'll see one is with shorts, one is a Yemenite child that was already in Israel, and so on. So they show, let's say, it's still very Ashkenazi, very East European tradition, but it tries to show what's going on. And then when we come to the early 50s, this is one, like a flag that was produced in 1951 by this artist, David Gilboa. It shows girls for the first time now dancing, and they're holding the children are holding Sefer Torah and the flags of Israel. And the buildings that we see in the 4 corners, 2 of them are of ancient times, the Western Wall and the Tomb of Rachel. But at the bottom is the Hebrew University, is the first buildings on Mount Scopus, and the Knesset at the beginning. Okay, so here we have now Eretz Israel flags. I mean, this tradition is transformed. And in the 50s, they were all dreaming, and we see behind these windows far away the Tower of David and the Wailing Wall, because they were not in the hands of Israel. But you see how political ideas more and more come part of these flags. And then, after the 6-Day War, these are liberated and now part of the scene. So they're holding them, these images of the Wailing Wall and the Tower of David here, and it says here at the top, Jerusalem of gold, Yerushalayim shel zahav, that the city was liberated. We'll see in these flags more and more soldiers are participating. There's a parachute, here is another one, and they're dancing with the others. And behind them, the Wailing Wall and the Tower of David, the two symbols of tradition and power. And in the sky, phantoms, the aeroplanes with the Magen David. Okay, so this is how you should rejoice for Simchat Torah, yes, after the 6-day war. Even some show the generals of the 6-day war. You identify easily Moshe Dayan. This is Rabin, this is Ariel Sharon, Chaim Bar-Lev, Moti Gur, and you see the phantoms, the airplanes, are doing the shape of Magen David. And again, soldiers are holding the Torah scrolls. On this one, we are toward the end. I want to show a few more. You see the Magen David in the center, and it's like the central branch of a menorah, because there are 6 fighting airplanes and 6 tanks. Very militaristic, but that's how Simchat Torah flag became to be after the 6-day war. And then the still dream of peace. And you see now the ideas of the past, how much they, let's say, mixed together. Because in the past you had the emblems of the 12 tribes. Now you have the emblems of the unit of IDF. Again, the same idea exactly, but instead of emblems that are, nothing, maybe too religious to something, you show this and you see the soldier with the tank and the sailor, and it says here at the end of days will be peace, and we won't have our weapons anymore, we'll have farming tools, and we'll till the land and so on. So it's supposed to be very ideal, and but it shows you all these concepts from the past. And finally, I want to show you what happened to the flag in the more recent times, in let's say in the 80s and 90s, where the flags became to be more and more identified with certain sectors in Israeli society. And so nowadays it's even more prominent that each sector is section producing their own flags. For example, here too are of those of the West Bank, and it's called degel emunah, and you need faith in your country, and so on. And they are showing images that would evoke these concepts, and then using for parties, different political parties. This is the Mafdal that doesn't no longer exist. This is for the first time the Sephardim are doing their own degel Simchat Torah, and here's the one of Shas, of the Sephardic religious party in Israel, with Rabbi Kaduri and Rabbi Ovadia. This Hasidic one. This is of the Aguda, and you see at Tzadikim in Gimel. Yes, it's like political. Because Gimel is the vote for them, to put in the when you go to vote, or his bet for the Mafdal and so on. And even we have one Russian oligarch that wanted to be the mayor of Jerusalem, Arkady Gaidamak, and this was part of his campaign, this flag that he did for the elections for the municipality of Jerusalem. And he's totally secular guy, but Arkady Gaidamak, לראשות העיר, that he may be elected to be the mayor, and that's how he did it, with Simchat Torah that everybody supposedly buys. Finally, I want to show you that this concept of the past, of the flag of the Torah is only fighting in the name of the Torah, were revoked not only by the secular Israelis, the Chalutzim and then secular Israelis, but also in religious circles. What happens, for example, with Chabad, which is very interesting, is that they took this idea, and while in the past they would show something else, now they make their emblems to be like a military emblems. Yes, definitely modeled on IDF. Yes, and they call it Tzahal, Tzva Hachana LeGeula, the army for preparation for redemption, and Tzivot Hashem, the armies of God. So the children of Israel are in the armies of God. So this is how they do these ideas that are now mixed together. I mean, the powerlessness of Judaism is, I don't know, is maybe the end of it as we see these days. Who knows? I don't want to go into political issues now, but you see how these ideas keep changing all the time. And finally, the last two that I want to show you, you can see that it can go to this extreme, to have something just for secular Israeli kids that know nothing about what it means, Simchat Torah, and what the Torah means, and so on. So that they'll raise their curiosity, we have the figures from Popeye. This is one. And the other one is the last one that I'm showing you, is of the Masorti, of the conservative movement. And this flag that is now distributed in the last years is trying to show the modernity of Judaism in a way that you see here on this flag, dancing around the Torah, but not only boys, not only religious boys, but you have women. One is holding the Sefer Torah. You have a crippled girl in a wheelchair. You have an Ethiopian child. You have Herzl, with whom we opened. You have Moses. You have Miriam. You have prophet and prophetess, and so on. So now everything is good, and we all live in harmony. And so this is the message of the conservative movement in Israel and abroad. Okay, so we saw 2,000 years, you can say, more or less, of the development of this concept of the flag and how it kept changing in over time. And if there are questions, I'll be happy to reply. I'll do stop sharing.
Thank you so much, Professor Sabar. We're a little over time, so I'm just going to ask a couple of the major questions that came up. One was actually about the ancient flag. Was it used as something to also show loyalty or patriotism, or is that a much later understanding of the flag?
Patriotism toward whom? I don't understand. To
like,
the country?
Because you showed that it was to the armies, right, at the beginning, at the earlier stages.
Yeah. I mean, in Christian Europe, for sure. I mean, it shows which army you are part of. I mean, this is a sign of everybody fighting with you and to whom you belong, definitely. I mean, the emblem on the flags is identified with the person at the top, with the leading class and so on, for sure. If that's the question, I'm not sure.
Yes. Yeah. Okay, there was a few people asked about, there were some of the images in the earlier flags where Moses was depicted with the horns, which is actually a Christian way of depicting Moses. So there were a few questions about that.
Okay, so that's a very complicated issue and too long to explain on one foot, but let me try. I mean, it's a common idea that it's a mistake of translation, a verse from the book of Exodus, Karan or Panav, that the light shone from the face of Moses. This is how we usually interpret the word Karan, but it can also mean that he had horns. And actually, this is one of the meanings of the word. It's not a mistake. It can be that because to show a strong person in antiquity, in ancient art, for example, Alexander the Great, he's shown his horns because this shows virility, it shows manhood and so on. So it's not a mistake of Hieronymus. This is this Christian saint that translated the Bible into Latin in Eretz Israel. He translated in this way that Moses had horns, and that's how artists illustrated that. But it's not really a mistake because this is one of the commentaries of this, one of the interpretations of this word in the book of Exodus. But it's true that in Christian art, it became very common. And since Jewish art is often copying from what they see around them, they copied this image as well. And it became also part of Jewish art, no problem.
Thank you so much for this beautiful session. I urge you all, if you go and celebrate Simchat Torah somewhere, maybe take a look at the flags, see what comes up in the flags in your area. Professor Sabar, thank you so much.
You're welcome. Chag Sameach, everybody.